Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our backyard. Yesterday, my mother and I went nursery shopping, and we went to my favorite nursery in the Houston area, which is Enchanted Gardens down in Richmond, Texas. And I got a couple of things, and so I thought I would share that with you today. One thing I've learned throughout the years is if I find something and I don't get it, and I'm thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, I regret it if I don't get it later on. And that happened to me with what you see here. So my name is Crystal, and I garden south of Houston along the Texas Gulf Coast in Zone 9B. And we are in the throes of our late spring, and it's just a great time to make sure everything's in the garden and get things tidied up and make sure everything's planted that you want planted. And let me get a little closer. About a month ago, I saw quite a few Dipladenia, that's what this is, at the nursery. And I thought about it and I didn't pick them up. Went back and they didn't have them. And so I regretted that. I have its cousin, if you will, the pink mandevilla over here. And mandevilla is a vine. And it's beautiful, and it grows and it vines and it grows up and etc. And I love it. I've had mandevilla before, and this year I decided to go with pink mandevilla. Well, Dipladenia is like mandevilla, except it doesn't vine. And so I really wanted this, and I'm so glad that they had it again, because I was able to pick one up. So I've never grown a Dipladenia. I've only grown mandevilla, and I really like the blooms. It's a tropical plant, and I just think it's pretty. It adds a lot to the garden. I've always loved mandevilla. So if any of you have grown Dipladenia, I'm curious what you think about them, what you think about their growing habits. And these are full sun plants, and so if you'd share that in the comments, I'd really like to read what you've got to say. Okay, the next thing I got is a really unique looking plant. And I have to say, I don't think it's the prettiest plant, but oh my goodness, this is just unique. And it attracts butterflies. Let me show you it is called Chenille. Oops. Come on. It's called Chenille Plant Firetail. Come on. There we go. And oh my goodness. Wow. How many of you have grown this? I think I got it because it was unique. This just really hasn't been on my radar, but it is a butterfly attractor for nectar. And I thought, let me try it. It is in a hanging basket. At the nursery, they told me a lot of people will grow this as a ground cover. And so I can see that, but it also is very nice as a hanging basket draping down, because it has beautiful long extensions that come down. So this is new to me. If any of you have grown this chenille plant, let me know what you think. It is a shade plant, so it likes the bright indirect light, but in the shade. And so what I do for my shade hanging baskets is I have them underneath my tallow tree, and so they get beautiful shade. There's my Christmas cactus that does so well, and he is outside all year long except during a freeze. and he blooms beautifully, and they get just beautiful indirect sun, but not direct sun. So it's nice and bright. Isn't that a weird looking plant? It's fuzzy. This bloom is fuzzy to feel. Probably like chenille. So anyway, if you've grown this, let me know what you think. I'm excited because I'm excited to see if the butterflies really are attracted to this and how it produces with blooms. It says it's supposed to bloom all the way now through frost. So I guess we'll see. Okay, the next plant is a salvia. And you know me, if you follow my channel, I love salvia. In fact, at the top of this screen, I'm going to put the last video that I did, where all the different varieties of salvia that I have in the yard. But the reason this caught my eye was because of the wine-colored bloom. And this is called Saucy wine. Let me show you the tag here. Saucy wine salvia. This was pretty much an impulse buy. There were only 2 plants there. And the reason it's an impulse buy is because looking at its tag, it's pretty tender. It's zones 9 through 11. And you have to water it to keep the soil moist. It kind of wilted on me yesterday because it didn't have enough sun, and I had it in, it didn't have enough water, and I had it in the sun. So I watered it here, and it was fine. It was just a little bit dehydrated, but it's like, ooh, I don't know how well I'm gonna like it if I'll put it on drip. So I hope that does it well. I do love the bloom on it. So we'll look to see if Saucy wine will be able to survive in my garden. Salvia does pretty well, but I was really surprised to see how much water this needed. So in any case, it says it's a vigorous, tender perennial grown for its velvety burgundy red flower spikes and lush green foliage. Blooms continually from late spring to frost. And I do love salvia because they just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom for you, and they're such a pollinator hit. And I love this color. So this particular salvia is new to me this year. And speaking of salvia, in my new plantings this year of salvia, I had a summer jewel red die. Look at that. I was just so surprised. It's like, what caused that? The only thing I could think of is maybe, I do have problems with cats that roam, and they use my garden beds for their toilets or their litter boxes, and so that can be a problem, and I do have to fish out a lot of cat poo from my gardens a lot, but I didn't notice anything. So when I dig that up, I will find what the problem was. And the nursery had 2 plants left over of these small summer jewel red, and so I thought, all right, thank goodness, because I'm going to replace it. I'm going to replace that dead plant. So, even though we have great intentions, all of us do have plants that don't make it. And I try to replace as soon as I can, if I can, because I don't like to leave that kind of look in the garden. So I got a couple salvia to replace. Okay, next up. I also got another hanging basket that is for the shade. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but this is this Tradescantia velvet. This is pretty common. Well, I shouldn't say common. I usually see this in mixed baskets. I finally recognize this because I've had it in a mixed basket, hanging basket. But I usually don't see it all together. I don't know why, maybe just because I haven't looked for it. But that has such a dark color that the eye gets drawn to it. And so I will be moving around my baskets under the tree here because this really dark color will pop. And you know I like to garden vertically also. And so let me show you from a different vantage point. So my mother ended up getting one too, and we just hung it up so I could kind of take a look to see where I would like these placed, because I do have very dark burgundy color coleus in here, and when it draws your eye up and back and down, and here's some of the nice burgundy, not as dark color in this plant also that I just got. And so I really like having the eye travel through the yard because I love looking at the plants through the yard, and that particular plant brings that color anyway, brings out the color in the shade garden. And I just love how your eye is drawn up and then back down to the ground. And so that's another reason why I wanted to get that plant. And finally, you can see what else I have here. So one of the things I like to plant in my shade garden for color is coleus, because I cannot grow successfully things like hostas and coral bells down here. They just don't like the excessive heat and humidity. So what goes really well and what grows wonderfully are all these different types of coleus, and then caladiums. And caladiums grow so well here. And I was so excited to see that they had their caladiums out. The last time I was there, they didn't. It was just too early yet. And so I was able to get some of these gorgeous caladiums, and I will put them in my containers and have them throughout the shade bed. And so there's a container I like to use because it's high, and the caladiums just really come out and show their display. So I did get a few kinds of caladiums that I will share with you. And this one is called Celebration. And the reason I like this is because of the multicolors. It's got the green and the white and the pink and then the deep red veining. It just is really unique, and it really stands out. And so that's one caladium that I just was tickled that they had. This one has beautiful large, even in my little container here, in these little containers. This one is called, let me get it close here, Summer Breeze. These two happen to be shade caladiums, and so in my shade garden they'll do just fine. This one is a lot softer and a lighter color, but it does have that deep red to pink veining that I just think is so pretty. And then one that I grew last year that I think is just gorgeous is this one. And this is Carolyn Wharton, and I grew them from bulbs last year that I got from Costco, and they were so pretty, but I had them in a little bit of a too sunny spot. I just love this particular caladium, and I was happy to see that they had them in these little containers. And when I buy them in these containers, they do just as well. I just love the plants. They're much more inexpensive. So I think these are $2.99 a plant. And at the nursery, when I can see the colors, I really appreciate that. Because when you go from a picture, sometimes the pictures don't exactly follow or are true to the picture. And then I got a very pink, just neon pink almost, caladium. And this is called Florida Sweetheart. This is a sun caladium, and it's got large pink leaves with the green margin. Great to grow in containers. And It's called a sun caladium. They had them out in the full sun. I don't put caladiums exactly in, 9-hour a day full sun, but they can take a lot more sun than these shade caladiums that I have. I can still stick them in the shade. That's typically what I've done in the past because I love this particular color, pink. And what I do with this kind, I've had different kinds, but they all end up looking somewhat similar to this, is I love to put them in these 2 containers, and then I move them. Let me move back a little bit here. And I place them in the garden so they're up a little bit and they're amongst the coleus. So I have 6, 3 for each container. I haven't planted those coleus yet. And then I've got my other caladiums for my other containers. And so I'm really, really excited. This was super inexpensive to get them in these small little containers, and they're just doing beautifully. Caladiums I know don't grow wonderfully for everybody, but caladiums do grow wonderfully for us. So you take advantage of what works in your area. They love the heat, they love the humidity, and they do need water. So have you purchased anything this spring or recently for your gardens? Because I'm a butterfly, hummingbird, and pollinator garden, I always try to get plants that either are a host plant or a nectar plant or a shelter plant or a plant where the birds will eat the berries, because I like to have life drawn to the yard. And as you can hear, if I film in the morning like this, I typically have extremely happy birds out singing in the spring. So share with me what you've purchased lately or what you're excited about to get into your garden. My shade garden here, not shade, my central garden bed that's in full sun here is just doing beautifully, and it's filling in so nicely. And I had purchased Liatris bulbs at Costco, and they're starting to come up here, so I'm super excited to see what the Liatris bulbs will do in the garden. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again soon.